everybody. My name is Ken Clark, and I'm the editor of Hardware and Building Supply Dealer Magazine. And welcome back to our one-on-one video series with Levi Smith. Levi Smith is the CEO of Franklin Building Supply. He's joining us from what looks like to be his office there in Boise, Idaho. Can you correct me if I'm wrong, Levi?
Here in the office in Boise, we're finally experiencing a little bit of warmer weather, which we have been waiting on longer than usual. So we're excited about the spring transition here.
Well, I was lucky enough to listen in on some of your thoughts on leadership and personnel recently, and you were gracious enough to agree to come and share some of those ideas, which I think are going to be great for our audience. Franklin Building Supply, the slogan on their website says, "We make building easy, one project, one solution, one conversation at a time." And thank you for joining us on this conversation.
Absolutely. Hopefully share something that inspires someone to just push further ahead in their context.
What was really interesting was you came from Texas to a family-owned business as the CEO in residence, or soon to take over for a family business. So your first step was to say, all right, I'm the boss. Is that right?
Yeah. And that went over like a lead balloon. So now I think for it doesn't matter what context you're coming in as a new leader, whether to a small team, department, location, or an entire organization, critical to think about, those first few weeks and months, maybe the first 90 days are so critical. How do you want people to experience you, perceive you? What do you want their, impressions to be? And so what I did, and certainly encourage others to do, whether inside our organization or out, is to come in with an extra dose of humility, to come in, listening. I think people desperately want an opportunity to be heard. They want to be able to tell their story, their experience, how they see things. And especially if you're coming in to lead an entire organization, it's invaluable insight. They're the ones doing the work that our customers pay for day in, day out. They're seeing the issues firsthand. Their experiences are different than you're ever going to have. And so showing them respect and honor, and how you, are attentive to listening to, again, what they're seeing and what they're noticing and observing. And, you'll get your opportunity as a leader to be able to speak and offer your perspective. You're usually not for one of those opportunities, but you don't get a redo on those first impressions and those first 90 days.
So Franklin Building Supply, we probably should have explained, is a complex organization with multiple locations. I think I counted 18. Is that the latest number?
Yeah, we're in essentially 11 markets, mostly in Idaho, one outside of Idaho and Elko, Nevada. But yeah, we do distribution, retail, manufacturing, and install. So we've got a lot of facilities and a lot of people to manage in a large area.
And what were your first steps coming in? I saw a video of you traveling around and listening.
Yeah, so I did. I mean, my first 90 days, this is back in early 2016, but I did a listening tour. I mean, that's kind of how I describe it. I'm coming here to learn and to listen. And so I said very little. So that was with, I got as much exposure to frontline employees as possible. So it wasn't going around just hearing from our general managers or others. It was bringing in wave after wave after wave of employees. And I said, I really appreciate and respect everything that you do. I'm trying to learn more about what you do on a day-to-day basis, but you know it inside and out. So tell me what it's like to work here. What do you wish we would start, stop, and continue doing? What would you change if you were in my seat? What would you retain if you were in my seat? What do you desperately want me to know about you, about your work, about our organization? And for most people, it doesn't take much if you're starting with those type of questions and that type of posture. And they're gonna open up. And I did these in groups of kind of 3 to 5, so large enough where people didn't feel uncomfortable that this was one-on-one, but small enough where they felt like we could have a conversation. It wasn't a large group where folks are observant of the fact that only a few people are going to get an opportunity to talk. So why say anything?
Recruitment, retention are big issues at every conference we attend and host. And Levi, thank you for attending and being a participant in our Pro Dealer Industry Summit
Absolutely.
on multiple occasions. You also mentioned about the topic of developing people, not just developing workers or employees, but developing people as humans.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that's fascinating me about business is all of a sudden in a business context, we assume that, hey, we're paying for the work or hours that you're delivering. Your obligation is to just do the job. You want to try to beef up somebody's skill set. And in all of that, and those are all, sort of well and good to a certain extent, but in the midst of that, we just forget that we're dealing with human beings. And there's nothing magical about arriving at work that means that everything going on outside of work is somehow forgotten or that they're immune from it impacting their work day. We're dealing with human beings, and life is complex. Relationships and people that are experiencing highs and lows and all kinds of things. And so one of the things that I really advocate for our leaders to do, and certainly try to model myself, is never forget that you're dealing with a human being. And so this is just going after the person and developing the person, their character, their emotional state, their mental acuity, those type of things. Not just can they perform this task better? Do they understand this? How to use this software? How to use this tool? So it's a both and approach. But I think it's interesting that in business, unless you're really intentional about pursuing human beings and developing people, the gravitational pull where it will take you is towards just kind of developing skills and workers. And you'll find that there's a big disconnect there. You've got people performing a task, but you've got folks that don't feel seen, heard, or known.
Levi, our audience has to be in complete agreement. These are all great ideas. Do they work? Do they lead to profitability?
Yeah, I mean, our story, I mean, I think it can obviously be difficult to tie, causation as simple as we want to. But we've been on, a fantastic run for, the past 7 years now. Some of it has to do with what we're talking about here. A good bit of it has to do with, I think, transitioning to 100% employee owned. And then obviously we had tailwinds of good markets, setting aside the second half of last year. But all of those things in combination, I think, put you in the best possible position to leverage the most skilled, engaged workforce possible. And I don't know why any business leader, business owner wouldn't want to go into the market with the best team possible. And so, you in order to achieve that, again, you've got to have their hearts, their minds, and their skills all engaged. And I think that requires not only training and equipping them on the practical aspects of their job, but going after, again, what I kind of describe as going after their hearts, going after them as people and human beings, realizing that they don't just leave life outside of work, that it's all much more integrated than we realize. They're asking for a lot more at work. Lean into that. And I think you'll have a much more engaged workforce. And I'd rather, try to compete with the most engaged workforce than the least. So I think it's been a significant advantage for us, and other companies that have pursued similar paths has similar stories.
Well, Levi Smith, the CEO of Franklin Building Supply in Boise, Idaho, thank you for engaging with us today, and we wish you the best of luck.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.